Part 1, Mind Over Money, Episode 2, Old Family Sayings. The following week, Leo found himself back on the familiar park bench, the quiet rustling of leaves a peaceful counterpoint to the lingering unease about his recent headphone purchase. He was diligently reviewing English verb conjugations, the irregular verbs as always, a persistent challenge, much like his attempts at consistent saving. He'd managed to walk past the window display of another tempting gadget without going inside, a small victory that felt surprisingly significant. Miss Evelyn Reed was tending her beloved patch of flowers, her movements as graceful and unhurried as the blossoming petals themselves. The gentle warmth of the sun seemed to reflect the serenity in her expression. Eventually, she straightened, her gardening gloves dusted off, and made her way towards Leo, a knowing smile gracing her lips. "Hello again, Leo," she greeted him, her voice carrying a soothing quality. "Your focus seems intense today. Conquering those tricky English verbs?" "Hello, Ms. Reed," Leo replied, a genuine smile returning her greeting. "Trying my best. They seem to have a mind of their own sometimes." He held up his notebook. Just like my money sometimes." Ms. Reed chuckled softly as she settled onto the bench beside him. "Ah, yes. Money often seems to have a life of its own, doesn't it? It can move in ways we don't always expect." Her expression grew thoughtful. "Last week, we were talking about the emotions that influence our spending. Have you had a chance to reflect on the beliefs that might be shaping those emotions?" Leo nodded slowly. "Yes, I have. I was thinking about some of the things I heard growing up. My grandma, as I mentioned, she always used to say, 'Money is hard to come by.' A sentiment born from experience, I imagine," Ms. Reed mused. "Definitely," Leo agreed. "She worked incredibly hard throughout her life, and things were often tight. That saying always carried a sense of caution, almost a worry that it would disappear quickly." "And how do you think that has influenced you?" Ms. Reed asked gently. Leo considered this. "I think it makes me hesitant to spend sometimes, almost guilty. But then, I also have another voice in my head, from my Uncle Elias. He always used to say, 'Money calls money.' He was quite different from my grandma. He took risks, invested. He always seemed to believe that if you had some money, it would naturally attract more." Ms. Reed's eyebrows rose slightly, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Ah, two very different philosophies indeed. Your Uncle Elias's saying carries a sense of optimism and perhaps a belief in the power of investment and opportunity." "Yes," Leo confirmed. "He always talked about making your money work for you. He wasn't always successful, but that was his core belief." "So, you've grown up hearing these two contrasting ideas about money," Ms. Reed observed. "One emphasizing scarcity and the difficulty of earning, the other suggesting abundance and the potential for growth. That must create quite a dynamic in your mind." Leo sighed. "It does. Sometimes I feel like I should hoard every coin because it's so hard to get, like my grandma said. But then, I also have this urge to make it grow, to take chances, like my uncle. It's confusing." Ms. Reed nodded understandingly. "It's natural to feel that conflict when you've been exposed to such different perspectives. Our early environment, the words we hear, the behaviors we witness, they lay down deep tracks in our understanding of the world, including the world of finance." She shared a story from her own past. "My parents, as I mentioned last week, were quite frugal. "A penny saved is a penny earned" was their mantra. But my grandfather, on my mother's side, had a different view. He was a small business owner, and he believed in reinvesting profits to grow his enterprise. He would often say, "You have to spend money to make money." It wasn't about wasteful spending, but about strategic investment. "So, you had a similar kind of contrast in your upbringing," Leo noted. "I did," Ms. Reed confirmed. "And just like you, I had to reconcile those different viewpoints. I learned that both frugality and strategic investment have their place. The key is understanding when to apply which principle and not letting an ingrained belief dictate every financial decision." She then focused on the two sayings Leo had shared. "Let's look at your grandma's saying, 'Money is hard to come by.' While it's important to respect the effort that goes into earning money, believing this too strongly can lead to a scarcity mindset. This mindset can make you fearful of spending, even on things that could genuinely improve your life or help you grow. It can also make you miss out on opportunities because you're too afraid of losing what little you have." "That makes sense," Leo said, thinking about his hesitation to invest in better English learning resources, always worried about the cost. Ms. Reed then addressed Uncle Elias's saying, "Money calls money has a different energy. It speaks of potential and growth. This mindset can encourage investment and a willingness to take calculated risks. However, if taken too far without a foundation of careful saving and understanding risk, it can lead to recklessness and the belief that money will magically multiply without effort." "My uncle did have some less successful ventures," Leo admitted with a wry smile. "Exactly," Ms. Reed responded gently. "Neither of these sayings, taken in isolation, provides a complete or balanced financial philosophy. They are simply different lenses through which to view money, shaped by individual experiences and values." She leaned forward slightly. "The important thing, Leo, is to recognize these early influences. To understand the stories we've been told about money. Your grandma's caution and your uncle's optimism are both part of your financial inheritance. Now, as you navigate your own financial journey, you have the opportunity to examine these inherited beliefs and decide which ones serve you best and which ones you might need to adjust." She suggested another exercise. "Think about your Uncle Elias. What were the positive aspects of his money calls money philosophy? What were the potential downsides you observed? Do the same for your grandma's saying. What were the strengths of her cautious approach? What were its limitations?" Leo nodded, already turning these questions over in his mind. "Understanding these early narratives," Ms. Reed concluded, "is like understanding the roots of a plant. To help it grow strong and healthy, you need to know the soil it came from. By recognizing the stories you've been told about money, you can cultivate a more conscious and balanced approach to your own finances, one that takes into account both the value of hard-earned money and the potential for it to grow wisely." Leo started to feel clear about his thoughts. The simple sayings from his grandma and uncle were not just casual words, they had a strong effect on him. These words shaped how he thought and acted about money. Ms. Reed was gently helping him understand this influence and see how it affected him. She was also guiding him to begin creating his own story about money. He wanted to find a balance between being careful and taking chances, without falling into fear or being too optimistic. As Leo learned English, he also learned more about himself, his role in the world, and the emotions connected to money. End of part 2. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of the story.